When God leads you, something shifts deep down in the soul. You begin to walk differently, not because you've gained the approval of others, not because the path is suddenly smooth, but because you know, truly know, who is walking with you. There is a quiet boldness that settles into your bones, a calm assurance that does not depend on applause or understanding. It is not loud. It is not boastful, but it is unshakable. You no longer need to explain your journey to those who do not understand it. When God leads you, the need to be seen shrinks, and the desire to be true grows. You're no longer performing. You're no longer hustling for a seat at tables where your name was never meant to be placed. You begin to walk with dignity, not because of what you carry, but because of what has been placed within you. You carry light, you carry calling, you carry the echo of God's whisper in your ear, saying, "This way, my child. This way." You don't have to roar to prove your strength. When God is leading, there is strength in your silence, power in your restraint. You don't panic in the presence of obstacles because you understand now. They aren't blockades. They're blessings in disguise. You've learned how to wait without whining, how to walk without wavering, how to speak without shouting. Because His leadership trains you in the sacred art of stillness, the holy discipline of listening for something deeper than noise. And sometimes, child, you will walk through valleys so dark that even the moon hides its face. You will pass through seasons where you question everything. Your timing, your talent, even your worth. But the boldness God gives doesn't come from being untouched by struggle. It comes from surviving it. It comes from rising again and again, with dust on your feet and faith in your chest. You rise not in defiance, but in divine alignment. When God leads you, people may wonder how you're still standing. They may not know what kept you when all you had was a prayer and a tear, but you will know, and that knowing, that sacred certainty, is what gives you that quiet boldness. You're not trying to convince anyone anymore. You're not chasing affirmation. You are simply following the one who knows the end from the beginning, the one who calls you not by your failure, not by your past, but by your purpose. There will be days when you are misunderstood. You may be overlooked by people who do not have the eyes to see what's been placed inside of you. But when God is leading, rejection is never the end of the story. Sometimes, it's the redirection you needed. Sometimes, it's the divine protection you didn't know to ask for. You don't force what's not flowing. You don't chase what's not meant to stay. You trust, you obey. You move when He says move, and you wait when He says wait. You'll find that you are no longer afraid to take up space. Not because you've made yourself big, but because you've made your God bigger in your heart. There's no need to shrink when the one who crafted the galaxies is guiding your every step. That's what happens when He leads. You grow into the fullness of who you were created to be, not all at once, but piece by sacred piece. And in this holy process, you become someone who no longer relies on the approval of the crowd. You stop measuring your progress by the world's applause and begin to measure it by your obedience. You stop asking, "Do they see me?" and start asking, "Am I walking where He leads?" That is freedom. That is peace. You will feel the weight of who you are, and instead of fearing it, you will honor it. Because when God leads you, He does not lead you to become someone else. He leads you back to the truest version of yourself, the version He saw before you were formed, the version that carries glory in the cracks and strength in the scars. And yes, the journey will stretch you. Yes, it will humble you. But it will never break you. Not when you know who's holding your hand. Not when you walk in the rhythm of grace. Not when your steps echo with the sound of purpose. So let the world watch. Let them wonder. Let them talk. When God leads you, you don't just walk. You rise. There is a misconception, beloved, that when God leads you, the road becomes easy. That the moment He takes your hand, the sun shines a little brighter, and the winds calm themselves just to let you pass through. But no, when God leads you, the road may still rise up to meet you with rocks and thorns and unspoken questions. Yet even as the road rises, something sacred rises in you too. He does not promise that your path will be pain-free. He does not vow to remove every hill or hush every storm. What He does promise is presence. And when God is present, no valley is too deep, no mountain too high, no wilderness too wide. When He leads, every obstacle becomes a classroom, every delay a lesson, every burden a testimony waiting to be told. You may not understand the route. You may look around and wonder why it had to be this way. Why the road bent when you prayed for it to be straight. Why the door shut when your hands were stretched wide open. Why the blessing took so long to arrive. But trust me when I tell you, delay is not denial. When God leads, every step is woven with intention, even the ones that feel like detours. Especially the ones that feel like detours. There will be moments when the weight of the journey feels too much to carry. And in those moments, don't be afraid to cry. Don't be ashamed to fall to your knees. For it is in the falling that we often hear Him clearest. It is in the breaking that He reshapes us into vessels that can carry the kind of peace the world cannot steal. The kind of strength that doesn't show up in muscles, but in movement. In the way you rise after falling, in the way you sing after weeping, in the way you love after loss. Because when He leads, rising becomes your rhythm. It's not a loud kind of rising. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing hope again when everything in you is tired. Sometimes it's getting up and putting your shoes on when your spirit still feels heavy. Sometimes it's whispering, "Eyes, Lord," with trembling lips and a tender heart. But every small act of obedience is a declaration, "I trust you, even here." You'll learn that adversity is not the enemy. It's the anvil on which your faith is forged. When the fire comes, it doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It burns off what you don't need, strips away the illusions, and leaves behind something more honest, more true, more you. And there will be people, well-meaning, but misinformed, who will tell you that suffering is a sign of distance from God. But I say no, beloved. Sometimes suffering is a sign that you are walking so closely with Him. You are being trusted with trials that birth something eternal in you. Jesus Himself was led into the wilderness, not by accident, not by punishment, but by purpose. So if you find yourself in a dry place, don't despair. You're not lost. You're being led. And the beautiful thing is, God doesn't just lead you through. He leads you into growth, into grace, into spaces your ancestors prayed you into blessings you didn't even know how to ask for. Yes, the road may rise, but so will your vision. So will your discernment. So will your ability to forgive, to endure, to shine when all around you grows dim. You won't rise because you're strong on your own. You'll rise because He is the strength within you. You'll rise because you've been carried when you couldn't carry yourself. You'll rise because the one who formed the heavens placed a piece of Him inside you, and no trial can erase that kind of glory. So don't curse the climb. Don't fear the elevation. What looks like resistance may be refinement. What feels like a setback may be a sacred setup for a miracle you didn't see coming. When God leads, the road may rise, but, child, so will you. When God leads you, something peculiar starts to happen, not just around you, but within you. You start to see differently. You begin to feel differently. Even the people who try to tear you down, they begin to take on a new shape in your eyes. Because when God leads, even your enemies serve a purpose. Even those who meant to harm you end up helping you, without even knowing they've been drafted into your destiny. Now it don't feel like that at first. No, at first it stings. Betrayal doesn't knock softly, it kicks down the door. Slander has a sharp tongue, and rejection, well, it can leave a scar so deep you start to question your worth. But if you hold on, if you keep walking where God is guiding, you will come to see what they meant for harm, He used to heal you. What they tried to block, He rerouted. What they said to destroy you, He turned into the very soil where your purpose could bloom. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned didn't come from the ones who loved me sweet. They came from the ones who didn't understand me, who dismissed me, who left me standing with unanswered questions and a cracked open heart. And yet, even in that cracking, I found clarity. I found that sometimes pain is a prophet. It tells you where to look. It points you back to the place inside you that still needs God's hand. When God is leading, enemies stop being obstacles and become instruments. Their rejection pushes you to God's acceptance. Their criticism reminds you to keep your ears tuned to heaven. Their betrayal drives you into deeper trust. Not in man, but in the one who has never failed you, not once. And I know some of you may be thinking, but why, Lord? Why must I suffer through the cruelty of others to get closer to you? And the answer is not always easy, but it is true, because pressure brings out the oil. Resistance births resilience. And sometimes God allows you to be placed in the fire so that what is pure in you may rise to the top and what is false may fall away. Oh, beloved, when God leads you, you begin to understand that being talked about, lied on, or misunderstood does not mean you're off course. Sometimes it's the clearest sign you're walking the exact path He laid before you, because the enemy only fights what threatens his grip. And if you're being fought, it's because your light is breaking through darkness in ways even you haven't realized yet. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we go looking for enemies or we glory in conflict. No, we love. We forgive. But we do not forget the wisdom pain brings. We remember how it taught us to pray differently, to discern more sharply, to love without letting ourselves be used. And we remember who showed up when the smoke cleared. God did. Every single time. There will be moments, child, when you want to lash out, when the hurt rises and your tongue is ready with truth laced in fire. But when God is leading you, He teaches you restraint. He teaches you that dignity is louder than vengeance. That silence, when chosen in wisdom, speaks volumes. You begin to let God fight your battles, because He does it better anyway. He lifts you up in ways no man ever could, and He makes your enemies watch. Not to humiliate them, but to vindicate you. Sometimes, God prepares a table in their presence, not out of spite, but as a declaration. This is my beloved, and I have been with them all along. And when you sit at that table, don't carry bitterness with you. Bring grace, not because they deserve it, but because you are no longer bound by what they did. You're free, and freedom, true, holy freedom, means you can look at the ones who tried to break you and say, thank you. Not because they were right, not because it didn't hurt, but because somehow, in the mysterious hands of God, their opposition became your elevation, their resistance built your resilience, and their absence made space for something greater to enter. That's what happens when God leads you. Your enemies become your educators, and you walk a wiser, stronger, and more anchored in Him than ever before. When God leads you, you start to notice that the doors you used to chase after begin to lose their shine. You no longer waste your breath begging to be let in, because you've come to understand something sacred. When God opens a door, no man, no system, no lie, no fear can shut it. Not for long. Not when the hand that holds the universe has already turned the key on your behalf. See, when we try to force things open with our own strength, we end up tired, we end up bitter, and we end up in places never meant to carry the weight of our calling. But when God leads, He opens doors in such a way that you know, without question, that it was Him. Not your resum, not your connections, not your charm. It was His favor, it was His divine timing. It was His yes that echoed louder than all the no's that came before. You may spend seasons knocking and hearing silence. You may sit in waiting rooms longer than your pride would prefer. But don't mistake the pause for punishment. Sometimes God delays your entry because what's behind the door is still being prepared. Or you are. He's not just interested in placing you in the right room. He's shaping you to carry the right spirit when you get there. And let me tell you, timing without preparation is just a missed opportunity waiting to happen. But when He opens it, oh, child, when He opens it, it swings wide with such grace you barely notice the hinges move. You just step through, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Not because you forced it, but because you followed. And because you followed, you arrive at the moment already equipped, already rooted, already aware that this isn't about you. It's about what He wants to do through you. You'll look back at the doors that stayed closed and thank God for His mercy. Because some of those doors led to cages disguised as stages. Some led to circles that would have drained your joy. Some would have welcomed you just to watch you fall. And so, the closed doors, they were love in disguise, protection wrapped in silence, grace wearing the mask of delay. I've learned, beloved, that when God is leading, He doesn't need a key. They all belong to Him. And when He says enter, it won't matter if they called you unqualified. It won't matter if you were overlooked or underestimated. God's open doors do not ask for permission to bless you. They do not consult your past. They open because heaven has spoken. They open because your obedience has unlocked something only faith can reach. And not every open door is for you to walk through. Some are for you to stand in and hold open for somebody else. Because when God leads you, He expands your heart. You stop thinking just about yourself. You start saying, if God opened this for me, who else needs to come through? You become a bridge for others to cross, not a gate that keeps them out. Because blessings don't diminish when shared. They multiply. There will be times when you walk through a door and you'll feel the weight of your ancestors, your prayers, your pain, all pressing up behind you, and you'll realize that this moment is bigger than you. You'll realize that what tried to block you couldn't break you, and what seemed like the end was really just the threshold of a beginning. So don't be discouraged when you see a door shut in your face. Don't be dismayed when the hallway seems endless. That's not the end of the story. That's just the part where your trust is being deepened. Your ears are being tuned to hear His voice more clearly. Because when God leads, He doesn't slam you into opportunity. He ushers you into it with care, with purpose, and with timing so perfect it humbles you. And when you find yourself walking through that open door, don't forget who opened it. Don't forget who carried you when you were too weary to stand. Don't forget the tears that watered the ground beneath your feet. Walk through it with gratitude. Walk through it with grace. Because when God leads, access isn't earned. It's ordained. When God leads you, you begin to understand something the world often forgets. Waiting is not wasting. No, when God is the one leading, even the silence is sacred. Even the stillness is working something out in your favor. Because when God has His hand on your life, He does not rush and He does not stall. He moves according to purpose. And sometimes purpose takes time. We live in a world that celebrates speed. We are taught to measure our worth by how quickly we can produce, perform, achieve. But God does not operate by human deadlines. His is a timing drenched in wisdom, and when you're following Him, you begin to feel the difference between movement and momentum. Not everything that moves is going somewhere meaningful, but when God moves you, it's with intention. And when He asks you to wait, it's with just as much care. Waiting under God's direction is not empty. It is not passive. It is not the kind of waiting that leaves you with idle hands and a bitter heart. No, this kind of waiting strengthens you. It teaches you how to listen beneath the noise, how to trust without seeing, how to be still without giving up. And it teaches you how to discern, how to know the difference between a good thing and a God thing. Sometimes, beloved, He will sit you down in a place that looks like nothing is happening, and He will ask you to stay there, not to punish you, but to plant you. Because before something can bloom, it must first be hidden in the dark. It must first be rooted, and the deeper the root, the taller the rise. So while it may feel like you are stuck, you are actually being secured. You may see others rushing ahead, building, climbing, succeeding in ways that make you question your own progress. But remember this. Comparison is the thief of clarity. What God is building in you cannot be compared to what He is doing in someone else. Your journey is custom, your season is sacred, and your timing is aligned with something bigger than applause or visibility. It is aligned with purpose, and purpose cannot be rushed. There are lessons that only stillness can teach. There is strength that only silence can grow. When you let God lead, you learn to stop forcing things. You stop chasing after what's not ready. You begin to understand that if it hasn't happened yet, it doesn't mean it won't. It just means He's still preparing you, or preparing it. And you wouldn't want a blessing that's half-baked. You wouldn't want a door to open before you're ready to walk through it with grace. Sometimes the delay is saving you. Sometimes the pause is protecting you. Because God knows what's behind the curtain even when we're pounding on the stage ready for the show. And when you trust Him, truly trust Him, you stop resenting the season you're in and start embracing what it's shaping in you. You stop asking, "Why not now?" and begin to whisper, whenever you say, "Lord." And in that space of holy surrender, peace begins to grow. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything going your way, but the kind that says, even if I have to wait another year, even if I have to wait through more tears, more stretching, more unanswered questions, I will wait, because I know that what you have for me is worth it. And isn't it something how the longer you wait in His will, the stronger your spirit becomes? How you stop fearing the unknown and start welcoming what's next with open hands. How you start realizing that being delayed didn't diminish your destiny. It deepened your faith. So don't despise the waiting room, child. Don't grow weary in the hallway between the promise and the fulfillment. Stand tall in it. Breathe in it. Let it make you wise. Let it make you gentle. Let it make you ready. Because when God leads, waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation. When God leads you, beloved, there comes a moment when you look back and realize He didn't just change your direction, He transformed your very being. You are no longer the same person who started the journey. The fear that once whispered so loudly has grown quiet. The insecurities that tried to rule you have lost their grip. The doubts that used to weigh heavy on your chest don't sit the same way anymore. Not because the storm stopped, but because you learned how to stand in the rain with grace, with strength, with peace. See, when God leads, He doesn't just take you to places. He takes you through processes. He doesn't just open doors. He opens your eyes, your heart, your soul. You begin to move not out of desperation, but out of discernment. You begin to speak not to impress, but to impact. You begin to love from a place of healing, not hunger. Transformation under God's guidance is quiet at first. It's in the little choices. The apology you finally speak, the bitterness you finally release, the risk you finally take because faith whispered louder than fear. It's the way you carry yourself when nobody is watching. It's the conversations you no longer entertain, and the rooms you no longer feel the need to enter, the battles you no longer feel the need to fight. He begins to grow you from the inside out. You stop chasing validation because you've already been called. You stop hustling for worth because you've already been chosen. You realize that you are not behind, not forgotten, not lost. You are being led. And being led by God means your growth is not measured in visible success, but in invisible surrender. People may not always see the change right away. They may still try to treat you like the old version of yourself. But you will know something has shifted. You've stopped shrinking to fit places too small for your calling. You've stopped explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. You've started walking like you know who holds your future. And it shows, not in arrogance, but in calm, not in noise, but in presence. God will grow you into someone who can handle what you once prayed for. He will grow you into someone who no longer clings to what is temporary, but instead builds toward what is eternal. You'll find yourself being more patient, not because life got easier, but because your spirit got deeper. You'll find yourself choosing love over revenge, peace over drama, wisdom over impulse. Not because you're weak, but because you've been made whole. And here's the thing about transformation. It's not always comfortable. It stretches you. It pulls things out of you that you didn't even know were lodged inside. Old wounds will rise so they can finally be healed. Old mindsets will break so you can walk in new light. And sometimes that breaking feels like falling apart. But don't be afraid of the breaking. It's making room for the becoming. You'll learn that growth and grief often walk hand in hand. That every time you rise, something is left behind. And that's not loss. That's evolution. That's pruning. That's God shaping you into someone who is not only ready to receive the blessing, but to carry it well, to steward it wisely, to reflect His goodness in how you move through the world. The version of you that emerges when God leads will not be perfect, but it will be powerful. It will be authentic. It will be aligned. And most of all, it will be free. Free from the need to prove, to please, to pretend. Free to rest, to rise, to run toward purpose with open arms. And one day you'll look back and barely recognize who you used to be. You'll remember the fear, but it won't define you. You'll remember the waiting, but it won't weigh on you, because who you are now is evidence, not of your strength, but of His faithfulness. Of what happens when you stop forcing, stop resisting, and simply allow yourself to be led. Because when God leads, you don't just arrive, you become.